You're watching The Breakfast Club.
That's right, we are The Breakfast Club. Now, we are still rocking and rolling, man. Our radiothon, we're here till midnight.
Yes, we're raising money for the Gathering for Justice movement. They are fiscal sponsors for the Justice League NYC, Colin Kaepernick's Know Your Rights campaign, and the Women's March. And that's why we have a special guest in the building right now.
Miss Natasha Alford.
From the Griot.
Yes. What's up?
Did I say your name right?
Why'd you say the
I
Griot
was
like
practicing
that?
before you walked in here.
The Griot.
The Griot.
No, the reason I said the Women's March last is because you just recently spoke in Detroit at the Women's Convention, and you were talking about how black women can reclaim their time.
That's right. Yeah, it was an amazing experience. 4,000 women came out from across the country. I was on a panel that was about media and the revolution and basically how to use your voice. Even if you're not officially a journalist, you know, we live in the digital age and people can talk about stuff that is important to them in their community.
And I think it's really important for us to not just do that, but also to support each other. You know, when you see somebody that is making moves, instead of us tearing each other down, and instead of people trying to pit us against each other, we really got to make sure that we are united.
Absolutely. I think immediately about Jamel Hill and everything that she went through at ESPN.
Jamel.
And April D. Ryan, you know, holding it down as a White House reporter. Those women are at the forefront. And when they've been criticized or people have pushed back against them, I love how, especially the black community, came together and they're like, no, you're not going to disrespect our journalists. We're going to stand up for them because journalists really do have a hard job.
Right.
And the conference was a follow-up to the historic Women's March.
That's right.
That happened in D.C.
Yeah.
So they needed money to do those kind of things, okay?
Absolutely.
That's why we're here today raising money for the Gathering for Justice, because they are fiscal sponsors for the Women's March.
Right.
Absolutely. And I think it's important because when we see rallies, a lot of people are critical. They're like, oh, you're just marching.
What does it do?
Yeah, what does it really mean? But the Women's Convention was about bringing women together to actually strategize. So I saw women learning how to write speeches, how to plan to run for office. Emily's List was in the building. They support Democratic progressive women. And they said 20,000 women have reached out to them over the past year, when before the interest was like around 900. So that just lets you know that women are trying to step up, and women should step up because, you know, they have the ability to lead.
And just to show you how tough we have it, you can just see everything that's been going on in the news right now with women coming forward and talking about just the struggles they've had in their workplaces. So.
Now, Angela Rye always said that it's not enough to be woke, you have to work woke. And, you know, you are a media personality. How are you working woke through your platform?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I try to do stories that focus on solutions. It can get depressing sometimes when we hear about all of the problems, but I look at issues that I care about, and then I find somebody who's working on it. So right now I'm working on a story about the police department in Newark, and they're bringing together the community and police officers and training them together in the same room.
Really?
That's
wow.
That is wonderful.
And it's intense, right? It's a 3-session program, 4 hours for each session, and you see each side kind of venting and expressing their frustration. You know, a police officer saying, look, I respect what you're saying, but if I live in the neighborhood and I arrest somebody and then my kid gets threatened, you know, those are things I got to deal with at home. And the community saying, well, you know, you shoot and kill my family member, right? And you don't think about them as a human being and how you could de-escalate that situation. We can't trust you again. So that just being a journalist, I try to be the witness to the story and really elevate the people who are going through that. And I hope people tune into the story. I'm producing it right now.
That's awesome.
Should be coming out soon.
No, I can't wait to watch that. I was just having this conversation about the police-civilian dynamic, like power dynamic. It's not equal, especially if you got a gun. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you got a gun, you're in more control than I am. So you're the person that can either de-escalate or escalate a situation.
But we need more of our own policing ourselves so they understand and they really, really know it. Like, you know, you get pulled over, you're scared. And a lot of times the cop is scared as well. So we need to get to that point where it's not everybody black is a drug dealer. Not everybody black is bad, you know?
And not all police officers are bad.
Absolutely.
And you know what I think? One of the things is, too, a lot of times we have interactions with police officers and it's because something negative is happening. And why not? And that's why I think something like that is great, where people are sitting down and talking and interacting with each other, because it's a way to get to know each other where you're not getting pulled over, where you're not getting stopped for something, where you're not getting arrested, where you're not seeing something negative happen in the neighborhood or in the community. easiest way for us to have a conversation where nobody's in trouble for anything. Nobody's scared of each other at that moment, so you can learn each other. And I think it is important for police to know people in the community so they can see you doing something and check you and know you by name, and you can know them by name and look at each other as human beings.
For sure. I think you'll see when you watch the story, but there's definitely a change in the beginning, right? It's very tense. Like I said, each side is expressing their anger and frustration, but by the end, you see that both sides understand trauma is part of the job. You know, it's hard to do their job, but at the same time, it's hard to face many of the injustices that we faced. And so you kind of see that there's a little bit of a ray of hope. And that's what I think journalism can do. Not only do we hold powerful people accountable, but we show the good that's happening in our community.
And it's a process.
It takes time.
It's a process, but you
take a
got to
long
get the
time.
process started.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, I do want to thank you, Natasha, because you've always been supportive of what I do. You know, we do Wealth Wednesdays, and you've definitely brought me and Stacey Tisdale up to the griot to talk about finances and talk about educating our community about financial literacy.
Thank you. I think, again, I want to focus on people, especially women, who are at the forefront and making change. And so something like Wealth Wednesdays, like, when I was growing up, I didn't have direction about what to do with finances. You know, you just go to school, you think, all right, they told me to get my education, but that is like not education for everything, right? There's still
We're learning
life.
geometry, we're learning algebra, we're learning trigonometry, but we're not learning about investing.
Absolutely. So
Yeah, a lot of that is certification, not education. I think it's the difference between certification and education.
Yeah, and I used to be an educator. So I was a middle school teacher before I went into media, and that was the thing I wanted to teach my kids about, more than just what was in the curriculum, but about life and like how to be active citizens. And so I remember shortly after the Trayvon Martin situation happened, we held a mock trial in my classroom, and I brought people who, you know, my lawyer friends showed up to be like a mock judge. And we had these kids debate both sides of the case and really like find their voice. And I hope that type of stuff is happening more in education.
That's
How the hell did they
We need
defend
more teachers
Zimmerman?
like that.
I would love to see how they try to defend Zimmerman.
It was very interesting. But the subject matter was debate, right? And so rather than just give them a boring handout, I was like, let's learn how do you build an argument and like support it with facts. And I had kids who did argue the other side even though they didn't want to.
Right, they're like, no, don't put me on this side. They're like, you were bad, you're on the Zimmerman
But
side.
you know, we need more teachers like that are thinking outside the box and making learning fun. And that was a problem growing up. Like, I hated a lot of my teachers because learning was boring. It wasn't interactive. It wasn't fun. It was just reading a textbook. And I think we need more teachers like that. So I commend you for
relevant,
whatever you
making
saw.
the lessons that you're learning relevant to what's happening in the world.
Absolutely. I want to shout out all the teachers who are in the classrooms right now doing it big and making that happen for their kids. And I think we need to elevate the teaching profession too, because teachers are not just going to be, you know, hanging around you don't have to be a martyr. You know what I mean? Like, if we really value this profession, I think the country needs to put more money behind paying teachers and needs to support them when they're doing great things. So shout out to Chance the Rapper, too, because I think he's doing an award show for teachers.
Why do you think it's important to put money behind organizations like Gathering for Justice?
Man, I mean, the money is where it happens, right? So when you think about running for office, one of the biggest impediments for Black candidates, and this is from, you should check out the Collective PAC, which is a Black political action committee that's supporting candidates. They're saying that money is one of the biggest obstacles that they run into. So they have people who are willing to step up, but they need to fundraise. It takes money to advertise, to reach people, and to make a campaign happen. And so it's about more than just talk. And I love the fact that people are calling in and donating because this is the time to do it.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for stopping through.
Tell them where to find you, Natasha.
Thank you
Please.
so much for having me. You can go to my website. It's just natashasalford.com. And all of my stories, the story about the Newark police, that's going to be on thegrio.com. And find me on Instagram and Twitter.
And we need that in Newark because Newark is getting pretty bad. The carjacking rate is going up and people are getting robbed a lot in Newark. So just, you know, I think that's a really great thing that they're doing. And thank you for joining us.
Progress. Thanks for having me.
All right. There you have it. Natasha Alford from The Griot. It's The Breakfast Club. Good morning.